All right, it is that time. I need you to sit up in your seats. Everybody sit up in your seats. I need you to put your phones away. Put your phones away, please. Give me the next 25 minutes of respect that I give to you. Put it away, sit up, give me your eyeballs, because we're gonna talk about some stuff tonight. And so tomorrow night is trick or treat night in Blair County. It is always the Thursday before Halloween. It's always the Thursday. And so how many of you are going trick or treating, like as teenagers? Okay, that's cool. Put your hands down. That's neat. There's actually, catch this. We were just talking about this. There are actually towns that are now like making it a law that you have to be 12 or under to trick or treat. I think that's stupid. Personally, I think it's ridiculously stupid, because I think that if you guys are out having fun, enjoying it, being safe, and you're out there being safe and you're in your costumes and you're having fun, I think you'd be okay. All right, so I think you're fine. So I think that's one of those things that would be. But Halloween in this season is so interesting, because we talk about things that we're afraid of. We talk about fear, and maybe you can remember some things that you might have been afraid of. And so what I had you guys do is I had you with this big bowl here. I had you write some things that you might have been afraid of. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about a few of these, and I want to start off by doing this. I wasn't going to do it in the beginning, but I want to start off by doing it because I want to see what are some of the things that we could be afraid of. So, let's see. As teenagers living in Blair County, you are afraid of not being enough. Oh, geez. All right, let's just get deep right off the bat. Other one, myself. Oh, man, we might want to just start praying now. All right, what's this one say? Spiders. All right, spiders. That's a good one. Spiders is a good one. What else do we got here? Let's see what this one says. It might be, it might not. Heights. How many of you are afraid of heights? You're afraid of heights. Absolutely. See what this one says. I am afraid of not being accepted for who I am. Woo. The dark. How many of you are afraid of the dark? You afraid of the dark? Afraid of the dark. All right, we'll do a few more here, and we'll review, see what we're saying. Failing a 100-point test in school. All right, that is like totally. Bees. Who's afraid of? How many of you are afraid of bees? Like bees is legitimate. All right, legit. That's legit. I'd say that's legit. Getting hit by a bus. Depends on who's driving that bus. All right. Clowns. How many of you are afraid of clowns? You don't like straight up creepy clowns? Some of these are really funny. We already said that one. Some of these are already repeated. Boys. That's such a great one. Be scared of boys for the rest of your life. That would be absolutely awesome. I would appreciate that. Erica. Someone wrote they're afraid of Erica. Yes, Erica. Deja. Someone's afraid of Deja. Who's afraid of cats? I just don't like cats, but you've heard me talk a lot about cats. Food. Listen, I am not scared of food. Not at all. All right. See, we got a few more here. These are fun. Getting lost. That's a good one. You don't want to get lost. We don't like getting lost at all. Someone put spiders. Spiders is another good one. We got another. Snakes. How many of you are afraid of snakes? Bethany is absolutely terrified of snakes. Afraid of losing. Whatever it might be, afraid of losing. That's good. Let's see what else we got here. These are some good ones, guys. Really good ones. I am afraid of my girlfriend. She's like, you will date me and you will like me. It's one of those relationships. All right, and we'll do this one, the last one. My mom. That's such a good one. I'm afraid of my mom. That is such a good one. We have all these fears. Well, so a few things I'm gonna talk to you, because let's remember being a child, right? Being a child, we had some fears, and maybe you still have them. Maybe you still kind of relate to those fears just a little bit. But I wanna talk to you about just, off the top of my head, as a kid, as a young kid, 5 things that I was absolutely scared of. I was young. Now, very first thing was the opening credits to the show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Straight up scared me as a kid. I mean, as a kid, I was terrified of that. It was just one of those things that it was just like, you pulled the blanket up because you're like, I don't want to watch, but I want to watch it. I want to watch, but I want to watch. And it was one of those things that absolutely terrified me. Second thing that I was absolutely terrified was Mrs. Churchbull from Matilda. How many of you know Mrs. Churchbull from, she was straight up, yeah. Matt is like, yes, she was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I mean, just horrible. The third thing I was afraid of the flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz. Me too. Just being honest, as a kid, straight up, that's creepy. Can we talk about that for one moment? You're creepy. You're going down the little yellow brick road, hanging out with your friends. All of a sudden, a monkey with wings picks you up. No, monkeys don't have, no. So I did not like that at all. The fourth thing I hated was a show that used to come out at night called Tales of the Crypt, and there was the Crypt Keeper. He used to give me nightmares, all right? Straight up nightmares. The Crypt Keeper. He was straight up like spooky and scary and just not like, no. The fifth thing, one of the fifth things that I saw this movie when it was in theaters. I saw this when I was in the theaters, and it absolutely terrified me. And I was a little bit older, but it was that creepy little girl crawling out of the TV in the movie The Ring. Straight up, no. Look how no. That girl needs a makeover, all right? Like, we need a makeover in Jesus, okay? That's what she needs. But can I tell you, after I watched this movie, all right, I went home that night and I was flicking through, I'm scared out of my mind. I can't sleep. And so I'm flicking through and I hit the static on the TV. I was like, oh no. I literally said, if that creepy girl crawls out there, I'm gonna kick her right in the head. And I'm gonna run and I'm gonna be gone. You will never see me again. But I will say this. There is only one thing that absolutely terrified me as a kid, more than anything. And it was, it wasn't anything. I wasn't scared of that type of stuff, like the monsters and all that. But there's one show that some of you will remember. And we used to watch it late at night and it absolutely creeped me out. But it was the opening from a show called Unsolved Mysteries. No, like Unsolved Mysteries, it was one of those things that came on and they had this creepy host and he was always very serious. And he'd be like, welcome to the episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And you're like, oh, this is gonna be. And then the music would play, and then you would get really, really creeped out. What was really funny, I played it in my office, and I started laughing. I was like, I was such a girl. I was afraid. No offense to girls. I was just a big baby, okay? I was absolutely terrified of these things. But, okay, how many of you have been afraid of something, and when you get older, you realize it's really not that bad? You're like, okay, not that bad, not that bad. But then there are some of us still where we won't put our foot outside the blanket because we're afraid the creepy guy under the bed is going to pull our leg out. You know what I'm saying? You guys know what I'm talking about? If the cover is over your feet, you're safe. But if one foot is out, that dude is going to grab you and pull you under to the world unknown. And it's just we're not going to have that. That's it. Or you watch a scary movie. You watch a scary movie downstairs. And then everybody's asleep, and it's just you. And you're thinking, how do I strategically make it from the basement up the steps into my bedroom without getting eaten by something? You know what I'm saying? You're like, there's the monster in the pantry that's gonna drag me to some weird place. And I'm like, so what do? You literally, this is what you do when you're down there. You get it, you time it out. You're like, all right, counting down. I'm gonna flick the TV off. I'm gonna jump over the couch, I'm gonna hit the lights, and I'm gonna run up the steps, and I'm gonna outrun whatever it is that's gonna be in my house. So with your like Jackie Chan ninja skills, you literally jump over the couch and you turn off the TV and you hit it. And then like in your mind, you see yourself like running up the stairs like as fast as you can. But really reality is you like fall up the stairs when you're going up because you're absolutely terrified and you're stumbling all over yourself. And then you hear something and then you just start crying and then you keep running. And then as soon as you get in, you shut the door and like you're in your bedroom and you're safe. Then you turn the light off and then there's that one moment you're like, you know, like, did it make it in my room? Another creepy thing was, okay, when your friends are like, hey, come like sleep over, have a sleepover, okay, and everybody goes to sleep, and you're sitting there and your eyes are wide open, and everybody else is like asleep. Your friend's like drooling on themselves over here. Your other friend's curled up in a weird position with their feet going all kinds of ways because they're out cold, and you're literally, and you're in a sleeping bag, and you're staring, and you're hearing these noises, and you're like, my friends are all asleep, and for some reason in your mind, whatever it is out there, it's just gonna eat you. It's gonna leave your friends alone because apparently that's how it works. When like Monsters 101, like you eat the person that is awake first. You leave everybody that's asleep. They're asleep, they're safe. But it was one of these creepy things where like we had, and so there's something about fear that's very interesting to us because fear is a very real thing. And even the whole basis of Halloween and the whole basis of a holiday is based around this thing of fear. Going to haunted houses, getting scared, being able to pop out and scare people and all of these things. And we've developed a culture that actually makes millions and millions of dollars off of movies that are all based around this concept called fear. Called being afraid, called being terrified of whatever. And you know, you think about when like, okay, there's levels of fear. There's like, you know, okay, I'm kind of scared. Then there's like, okay, I'm scared, like I'm gonna sleep with my lights on. All right. Then there is like, I'm absolutely terrified, where it's like, I'm gonna sleep on the lights on my parents' bedroom floor. And then there's like, I'm just going to jump in bed with them because I don't care if I'm 16 and I'm 6 foot and 250 pounds. I'm curling up to my mom. You know, like, because I don't care. And then there is the absolutely positively terrified where you like, you get the sweats. You get the sweats and you're like, I'm not moving because if I move, I'm going to pee myself. So that's not gonna happen. And your stomach gets all easy and like you're on high alert for everything. And each of us respond in different ways. How many, like there are two different ways we respond to fear. There's what is called flight and there's what is called fight. Let's do a poll right now in this room. When you get scared, how many of you are straight up 100%, I'm running away? Like you're like your flight. You're like, I am out of here. I don't care. I'm leaving. And you're like, if something started chasing you, and if you're with your group of best friends, if you're with your friends and you're like, listen, you better hope you're faster than me because you get eaten. I'm gonna outrun you. Actually, I'm gonna trip you up and you're gonna be an appetizer and I'm gonna bolt home. Like, how many of you are flight? You're like that. All right. How many of you are like, I'm gonna fight it? I don't care how big he is, I'm gonna fight it. I don't care if he's got a million teeth, I'm gonna fight it. Or so we have this flight or fight mentality. And then I like to throw in the third one. There is a third one we don't ever talk about. We talk about fight, we talk about flight. Freeze. You just freeze. Like you just straight up, like the monster comes in and you're like, and like you just don't move. You just don't move. And you're thinking like, if I stand super, super still and I am frozen, it will not come near me. It will not happen. And so we have this fear of certain things that happen, and some of us fight, some of us flight, some of us freeze. And so when we think about fear is this, I want to give you guys some stats on fear tonight. So check this out. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you. Number one is this. As you grow and as you mature and as you walk through your life, you're going to understand this, that fear is inevitable. Meaning that fear is going to happen. No matter how brave or strong you are, or how big you think you are, or how tough you think you are, no matter what, you're going to face some type of fear. And what's funny is there are a lot of different types of fear. The number one fear that people have, the number one fear above any fear they have is public speaking. That's the number one fear. The number one fear is getting up in front of people and speaking to them and having this public speaking thing where they do. And so we have to understand that fear comes at different levels, but fear is inevitable because some of you would rather just take an F in your class than get up and speak. You're like, nope, I'm not talking in front of people. It's not going to happen. Give me the F because I'm not going to do it. And so, because why? Because it's a fear that happens to you. And fear is inevitable. And fears range from the physical, like we're afraid of animals. We're afraid of other people. There is an actual fear of ketchup. Some people are afraid of ketchup. But then listen, there's the emotional fear. The fear of, we talked about it tonight, failure. There's political fear, there's supernatural fear, there's emotional fear, there's abandonment fear. So there's fear of all these things. And so we have to understand that, number one, fear is inevitable. It's going to happen. The second thing is fears are not chosen. A lot of teens develop their fears in reaction to a traumatic thing that had happened in their life. Like a lot of times, our fears are based on circumstances that have happened in our life. And so they were really just kind of born into it because we're not born to be afraid. We're not born to be afraid of the dark. We're not born to be afraid of these things. And so, sometimes teens, we find our fears in certain situations that we were kind of, raised in. And then ultimately, fears can evolve. Meaning that something that you're afraid of that's small is something that can evolve into something more. See, many teens, they face the same fears when you're children. The same fears that some of you have as children are the same fears that you have when you grow older. Why? Because fears will ultimately evolve into something so much bigger. And as you grow older, your fears just really change and shift into different ways. They just shift into a different mindset. You're not really afraid of the monster under the bed or the monster in the closet or any of those things. You're really afraid of different things. So again, tonight, I want to pose the question to you. What are you afraid of? Legitimately, what are you afraid of? Maybe for some of you, maybe you're afraid of your future. Maybe you're afraid of what is going to happen. Maybe some of you are afraid of what other people think about you. You have the fear of acceptance. See, many people also, even at your young age, they have this fear, and even at your age, they have a fear of dying or someone that you love dying. Maybe it's the fear that someone will find out something that you're ashamed of and people will know. Maybe you're afraid of the love that someone else has, or you're afraid to love someone because you don't want to be disappointed. See, our fears just evolve into something so much different than when we were children. And in this season, we're in a season that really glorifies fear and being afraid of things. We have to talk about this stuff. We have to talk about what we have. And, we read those cards tonight, and a lot of those cards, one of you wrote down something, and some of you connected with that. So we have similar fears in this room that as we grow older, that we're afraid of. And we have, we can list out all of these fears. And I know for me, even as I grow older, when I hear people that are my age that are afraid of things that are the same as I at this age, I'm like, wow, well, at least some people are afraid of the same thing that I'm afraid of. And for you to have an understanding that maybe some people in this room are afraid of the very same things that you're afraid of failure, of relationships, of death, of love, of acceptance. You're afraid of these same things that oftentimes people are afraid of as well. And what's crazy is chaotic as our society is sometimes in America, we live in a great country because we don't have the fear that a lot of other people do. See, we don't have the fear of not having water to drink. We don't have this fear of wondering where food can come from. We don't have this fear of wondering where we're going to lay our head down at night if we're ever going to sleep. See, in other countries and other places, people that are your age, they have these exact fears. I don't know how I'm going to eat today. I don't know how I'm going to drink. I don't know where I'm going to sleep. I don't know if people are going to come in and they're going to kill everybody in my village. I don't know if we're going to be able to have provision for everything that we need. See, there's different fears based upon where you were raised and where you came from and who you are. But the one thing that we all have in common is that we have this issue called fear. And I was thinking about what are maybe the top fears that we do face as a generation. What are the things that you face, that I face, that are very difficult? And I've kind of narrowed it down to 3 fears that have screamed the loudest and lasted the longest. And 3 fears that are most common when I talk to your generation. The first fear is this, is the fear of failure. See, when I was little, like a lot of kids, I had the plan of what I wanted to do. A lot like you had a plan that your life was going to go a certain way. You had it all mapped out. You had mapped out that you were going to get through school. You're going to get through high school. Maybe you're going to go to college. Maybe you're going to go to military. Maybe you're going to get a job. And then you have this plan that says, okay, after that I'm going to get married. And I'm going to have kids. And I'm going to have a family. I'm going to live here. And I'm going to make this amount of money. And I'm going to have all of these things. And we plan out our whole path. And we have this whole thing that is mapped out for us. But then all of a sudden life interrupts us. Or maybe all of a sudden God interrupts us. And God abruptly says, listen, I know that you have this plan that's going on. I know there's some things that you want to do, but here's the deal. I'm going to direct you in a different path. And he invites us into different opportunities filled with different dreams and different desires. Let me say that again, but some of you need to pay attention to what I'm saying right now. Sometimes God will lead you places, different places than what you had planned. And the initial desires and dreams that you had will no longer be there because God is going to give you different dreams and different desires to do things that you maybe never thought you would do. But we have this fear of it because our future no longer looks like we want it to look and as sweet as and the whole thing is we're terrified of this. Why? Because it's one thing that's called the unknown. See, the unknown is something that scares us, that terrifies us. Not knowing what's going to happen is where that anxiety kicks in. Not knowing what's going to be accomplished, not knowing what the future holds, that's something that terrifies us because we aren't in control of the unknown. We can map out how we want things to go. We can map out, this is the way I want life to go. This is the way I want my family to go. This is the way I want, but life happens and then we are faced with the unknown, and that is something that terrifies us because we don't know what to do. Not having that plan is a fear of saying, okay, I don't know what to do, and I have a fear of what's going to happen. And see, right now, some of you are right there. You're unsettled. Can I talk about that real quick? You're unsettled at where you're at in life because you feel like you're between point A and point B. You second guess whether or not you should be doing this or be doing that. You second guess, should I live this way or live that way? What I want to call you, you're the in-betweener. You're in between things. You're in between trying to figure out life. You're in between school. You're in between trying to figure out your job. You're in between trying to figure out what you're going to do with your future. You're in between trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. You're in between maybe how you want your relationship with God to go. The teenage years, the young adult years is the in-between years figuring out how you will be. But I'll tell you right now, if you can right at this point in life figure out who you want to be and how you want to live and who you want to serve, the in-between years won't be as hard as you think they will. But the in-between is that fear of not knowing of what's going to happen, and that's one of the biggest fears that we have. Why? Because of the unknown, where everything's up in the air, is out of our control. So we have this fear of the future. The second fear is very real as well. It is the fear of failure. If we're honest, it's just the unfamiliarity of the future that scares us. It's the idea of making a decision scares us. Failing at making the right decision. We're terrified that when we have a decision to make that we're going to make the wrong one, so we decide to not make any. Can I tell you this? Everybody look at me. Can I tell you this? This is why I think that your generation is just so confused on who they are, and you're so confused on your identity of who you're to become. I think you're so confused on the identity of who you should be. Why? Because you have a fear of failing at making a decision. Rather than making a right decision or a wrong decision, you decide to make no decision. And so you can't define who you are anymore. Why? Because of the fear of failing at making a decision. So we walk through life saying, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to make the right decision or the wrong decision, so I'm just not going to make any decision because whether it comes to schoolwork or relationships or driving or anything, I'm afraid of disappointing those. I'm afraid of being a failure, so I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to go out on a limb. Because see, this is what I can't stand about the fear of failure. The fear of failure, what it really does, it paralyzes us and it inhibits us from becoming something great and taking a risk and moving forward. You have to take great risks. You have to say, you know what? I'm going to make this decision. I'm not going to be afraid to fail. Because guess what? If you fail, then you get up again and try to do the best you can the next time. One moment of failure, one instant of failure is how it's defined is not how, that you failed, it's how do you respond to that failure? How do you respond to not making the right decision and doing the right thing? See, as teenagers, we often think let's just skip the failure. Let's just skip it. Let's just skip the making of the decisions and let's just kind of coast through life and just be like everybody and do what everybody else is doing. And we bring that into our spiritual relationship with God. We are afraid of failing God, so we just kind of coast through. Oh, well, I'm a good person. I do this, I do that. But you don't do anything radical for Jesus because you're afraid of what people think. And you're afraid that you'll fail. But then you won't do things for God because you say, you know what, I want to do this amazing thing for God, and I want to start this amazing movement, or I want to start this club, or I want to start being more of a witness, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And we have this decision to be something great, but we're terrified of failing at it, so we just don't do it. The fear of failure is crippling your generation. It literally is crippling you. Not giving you the momentum or the force to move forward in what you do. Because trust me, guys, when it comes to things in my life, I can be a perfectionist. I can want things a certain way. I dread making mistakes. I dread screwing up. I hate when the option of failure is there, because failure will just undo me. And when things don't go right and things don't go the way, it's just something that I constantly have in my mind. I'm preparing something big, and if it doesn't go over well, I'm going to fail. But I keep moving forward and I keep doing it. Because with every great risk comes the great opportunity of success. With every great risk comes the great opportunity of success. So you can't be afraid to make a decision, even if it's saying, you know what, I am going to do this in this class, or I am going to make this decision, or I am going to stand out, or I'm going to stand out. We need a generation that is not afraid to fail. Third thing is this: because of the future, because of the failure, we have a fear of intimacy and loneliness. But it's very interesting when we look at this. One of the greatest things that I feared growing up as a teenager is the fear of being close to someone. That's why I dated around and jumped from girlfriend to girlfriend and relationship to relationship, because I was afraid of the intimacy. Because I was afraid if I got too close to someone, they were gonna break my heart, that they were gonna destroy me. See, many of us struggle with the below the fears of intimacy and the loneliness. And intimacy connects to a fear of being known for who we truly are. Because if I get too close to someone, they're gonna really know who I am, and maybe they won't like me. Maybe they won't accept me. And I'm afraid to get close to anyone anymore, because my fear is that if they really, really know who I am, they're not gonna accept me. They're not gonna like me. Because when we get close to someone, we become more self-aware. And we start to examine ourselves, and we start to pick apart all the things that we hate about ourselves. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, we literally begin to evaluate our lives and be like, man, I hate this about myself. I hate that about myself. And we're not impressed with who we are. And this is the season of life where we become more aware of how just sinful and broken and flawed and just messed up I am. And as I grow older, you just figure out, man, I'm just one big mistake. I'm just one big failure. I'm just big one. No one is going to love me. No one is going to accept me. No one's going to get close to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just not going to let anyone in. Because I have this fear of intimacy, of allowing people to be close to me. So we have this fear of being close to people, but let me take you on this journey. Please, everybody pay attention, because I think you're gonna understand where you're at in life right now. So we're afraid of getting close to people, right? We have this fear of intimacy, of being connected with people. But then we also, in that same mindset, we have this fear of being alone. So we have a fear of being with people, but we also have a fear of being alone. So how does this play out? How does this work for us? Isolation and loneliness are serious threats to our happiness, and we want to be loved. We want the close relationships. We want community. We don't want to be by ourselves, but we fear the risk of relationships. We fear so it's easier for me just to not be engaged, but then I don't want to be alone, because being alone means that I'm an outsider, I'm an outcast. And so I have a fear of being with people, but I have a fear also of being without people. So we have this battle that is going on of wanting to be with people, but being afraid that they'll accept us, to, you know what, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be by myself. I want people to love me. I want people to listen, but I'm afraid. So right here, we have these two almost different things that are clashing in our mind. Your generation has these two mindsets that are colliding with each other, and they don't make sense. Because why are you afraid to be with people? Be with people. Why are you afraid to be alone? Just be with people, and then you won't be alone. But yet we're afraid because of this or because of that. This fear that collides with one another. These are the things where we don't want to be by ourselves because we fear who we are. And I think, to me, the fear of the future, the fear of failure, and the fear of intimacy and loneliness are the biggest fears that we have. And fear can truly be paralyzing to us. It can change the momentum of how we live and how we are and who we are. Fear will literally consume your life, and it will form your identity if you allow it to. So how do we deal with these three things? How do we deal with these main fears that your generation is dealing with? How do we walk through this? How do we process this? How do we begin to even understand what we're supposed to do? It's no surprise that the Bible actually talks a lot about fear and being afraid. It actually says, do not be afraid many, many times in the Bible. Countless times in the Bible. Just you go through, it's one after another, after another, after another. And it is dealing with initial physical fear, but also the fear of the emotional things that we've talked about. But if there's something I want you to catch tonight, is this. And it's in Isaiah chapter 41, verses 9 through 10. It's on the screen behind me. It says, I took you from the places far away on the earth and called you from a faraway country. I said, you are my servants. I have chosen you and have not turned against you. So don't worry, because I am with you. Don't be afraid, because I am your God. I will make you strong, and I will help you. I will support you with my right hand that saves you. If you can go back to that portion on the screen that says, do not be afraid, because I am your God. I think that this is one of the most powerful scriptures that we should know. If you were to ask me what is a scripture that you as a young person should memorize, it would be this one. And the more I think about it, the more I process, should we really be afraid of things? Knowing that God is with us. Should we really allow fear to dictate to us who we are? Should we really allow fear to paralyze us? Or should we really have this understanding that God is who he always says he is, and he always will be who he says he is? And so we can have this God that is with us, that will make us strong and help us, and he will support us, and with his right hand that saves us. God knows that we struggle with fear. God knows that we struggle with things. He reminds us and tells us, listen, like, you don't have to be afraid because I'm there. I'm going to be with you. And what I love about this is what God says. He says, I am your God. Check that out. He doesn't say, I am a God or I am the God. That's not what he's saying here. He's not saying or the. When you read this verse, he's literally saying, I am your God. Meaning that I'm yours. That you and I have this connection. Because when I say that I'm yours, it means that you're mine and I'm yours, and we're connected, and we have this exchange of one relationship into another, and so we're together. We can connect, you and me, on this level. I am yours and you are mine. And God is saying, listen, do not be afraid because I'm yours. You have me. If we could catch that, we have him and he has us. And in that, we can be connected. And he reminds us that he's with us, and he tells us not to fear. Why? Because God is with us. I want you to say this with me tonight. Say, God is with us. God is with us. One more time. God is with us.
God is with us.
If you could understand that, when fear starts to come into your life, and you could understand that, you know what? I don't have to be afraid of these things because God is with us. God's got me. He's with us. And what I love is that it's not only that God is with us, God is in us. He's literally present with us anywhere that we're going. His presence with us is enough, and it gives us strength. His presence, he said, listen, I care so much about you that whatever situation you walk into, I'm going with you. So you don't have to be afraid of failure because I'm going to walk with you through it. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to have loneliness. You don't have to deal with the fear of the future. Why? Because I'm going to walk with you through this. See, there's a security knowing that God is with us. Knowing that he's going to walk with me through the hardship and through the rough times and through the areas that we shouldn't. God knows that we will be afraid, and over he reminds us, do not be afraid. And the things that come up in life, the situations that cause you to be afraid. Imagine yourself standing before whatever that is. Just imagine with me that fear of failure, that fear of loneliness, you're standing right before it, and it scares you and intimidates you. But all of a sudden, there's a shadow that comes behind you, and it's the shadow of God, and he's so much bigger than the loneliness or the fear of the future or the fear of failure that stands before you. He's so much bigger than that, and you're really not afraid anymore because you have him. He's with you. He's got you. He's got your back. He's going to protect you. He's going to say, listen, I got this. I'm with you. I'm able to do this. And so we're not afraid of the things that we used to be afraid of. Why? Because God is with us. Even those people that live in real fear every single day, God is with you. Every single day that you're afraid, God's right there. He's saying, listen, all you got to do is call on me. I'm here. When you're struggling, I'm here. When you feel lonely, I'm here. When you need someone, I'm here. When you're afraid of what's going to happen, I'm here. Everything that you need, I am right here with you. And so we don't have to have this fear. Why? Because he is with us, and he can and will give us the strength to face our fears. Several years ago, I talked a similar message about this, and I talked about faith versus fear. And I talked about how fear will literally paralyze us. But what we need to do is we need to have a faith that paralyzes our fear. We cannot allow fear to paralyze us, but we need a faith that's going to paralyze the fear that is in us. A faith so strong that it's like, nah, you're not going to take me over. I'm not going to be afraid of you anymore. Man, think about the power of that statement. To be able to look at something in your life, to be able to look at someone in your life, to be able to look at whatever it is, to be able to look at someone and say, I'm not afraid of you anymore. To look at the fear of failure, to say, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm not afraid of being alone. I'm not afraid of giving myself to someone that they can love me and care about me. I'm not afraid of what the future holds anymore. I'm not afraid of you anymore. See, when we started this whole entire series, or this sermon tonight, I asked you, what are you afraid of? And tonight, after we're done, when I ask you what you're afraid of, what scares you, the answer should be, I'm not afraid anymore. Because Isaiah tells me that God is with me and that his righteous right hand is there with me and that he is with me because he is mine. I believe this. I believe that if we can get this in our heart, then we're not going to struggle with this identity that your generation struggles with. Trying to figure out who you are or where you fit. Be who God created you to be and don't be afraid of anything else. Be exactly who God created you to be. And don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of any of these things. God's got the future mapped out for you. He's going to take care of you. He's going to bring people into your life that do care about you. And he already has, like leaders at the refuge that are here that care about you and love you. Friends that are here that love you and care about you. But understand this, you do not need to be afraid anymore because God is with you. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes for a moment. Just for a moment. Talked about some fun stuff in the beginning. Talked about some things that we used to be afraid of when we were kids and movies and shows and all that fun stuff. And then we took a turn. We took a hard turn where we're saying, you know what is it that really scares us? What is it that really scares us? The fear of the future. See, some of you are afraid of what's going to happen and what's coming. You're afraid of of the unknown that we talked about, that unknown that's saying, I don't know what's going to happen. Put your trust in the Heavenly Father, and He's going to take care of it. It might be unknown to you, but it's not unknown to Him. So tonight we're here and we're afraid of the future. Then there are those that we're afraid of failure. We're literally afraid of doing the next thing because we're afraid something's going to happen. We're afraid that things are going to go south. We're afraid that things are not going to work out the way they need to. We have a fear of the failure that can happen in life. And then there are those that are here tonight that we have a fear of intimacy, but also a fear of loneliness. All heads bowed and eyes closed tonight. I want you to know with 100% confidence that you don't have to be afraid anymore. See, I'm no longer a slave to fear because I am a child of God. That's how the song goes. That I'm no longer a slave to it, meaning that I'm not subjugated to do what it tells me to do, to act the way it tells me to act, to be the way it tells me to be. I don't have to be like that anymore. I can be who God has created me to be. So tonight, if you're here and you struggle with legitimate fear of failure, of the future, of loneliness, of intimacy, I want you to know tonight that you don't have to be afraid anymore. That God is with us. That He'll be there to take care of you because He's yours. I'm not going to ask anyone to lift their hands. I'm not going to ask anyone to stand up. I'm not going to ask anyone to come to the front. Because what I can say is this: all of us are afraid of something, including me. I am afraid of failure. I'm afraid of failing as a youth pastor, as a leader. I'm afraid of being a good husband sometimes. I'm afraid of being a good son, a good friend. I have the same fears. But when those things come against me, I have to remember that I don't have to be afraid anymore. That I just love God and try to be the best that I can be and learn from the mistakes. So tonight, if you're someone that struggles with the fear, I want to pray with you. And you can agree with me and you can pray with me tonight. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight. God, I don't want to be afraid anymore. I don't want to be filled with fear anymore. I'm tired of being scared of the future. I'm tired of being scared of failing. Tired of being scared of getting close to someone, but I'm also scared of being alone. So God, I pray tonight that as I'm dealing with this fear and I'm dealing with this failure, I pray, God, tonight, first and foremost, you forgive me of the things that I've done. God, forgive me of the sins that I've committed. Forgive me for having these problems, having these issues, and not putting my trust in you. And I pray tonight, God, that you will help me and allow me to put my trust in you. Because, God, you are with us. You are with us. So God, I pray that as we continue on our journey with you, that and in life, and as we deal with situations that could come up to strike fear, that God, we will not be paralyzed by fear, but our faith will paralyze our fear, and we can move forward and we can progress in who you've called us to be. God, I thank you for each and every student and leader and everyone that is here. God, I thank you for your grace and your forgiveness. But God, allow us to have an awareness that you are with us. God, allow us to understand that we're not in this alone. So God, forgive us, be with us, give us strength so that we do not have to be afraid anymore. We thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Guys, I want you just to remember, seriously, I don't want you to forget this. You do not have to be afraid anymore. You don't have to be afraid anymore. It's not something that we have to deal with. So one more time, I want you to say with me, God is with me.